I have done an entire stream, and then I've gone to shut all my stuff down, and there's my blue sky window. Thank you. With my posts ready to go, but I didn't hit send. More than zero.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done that in plenty of discords where you're going, oh, okay, well, I totally forgot to hit enter after I pasted that in. So,
Right, intro time. All right, everybody, welcome to another Kaz PhD live stream. Hello, hello, and happy Saturday to you. If you ever joined this early in a stream and you hear me pausing as I say the day, it's because I've forgotten what day it is, which I just did. I couldn't remember if it was Friday or Saturday. The heat is melting my brain. If you are not new here, you'll notice a new setup. We got ourselves floating here in the above Moraine Lake, beautiful vista in Western Canada. If you are new here, this is not a normal setup. We are doing our first reading book club stream. Um, so yeah, this is a pretty free form right now. Just we're gonna probably do some intros. And as it says at the bottom of the screen, today's topic is about getting started. It's getting started in this stream, getting started with reading, talking about engaging with stories, however you wish to do it. And yeah, if you're here, welcome. Welcome all of you. Feel free to type in the chat. We're going to respond to you and stuff like that. Um, Very brief introduction. My name is Kaz, PhD. I do a lot of stuff here, mostly games, but I've been loving reading the last little while and wanted to make a space where we could talk about it. And I'm joined today with our very special guest, Pens. So, Pens, maybe introduce yourself.
hi. My no full Twitch stream gamer tag PensHalo, and as you can probably tell behind me, yes, I am a Halo fan. Huge fan of the lore of Halo, whatnot. I do stream. Usually Friday nights, Halo multiplayer. Saturdays usually Halo campaign, and Sundays are usually a whatever I feel like it, which now has been long dark. Anyway, uh, yeah, I pretty much I've grown up reading. Uh, I am someone who just enjoys it immensely. Um, it's something that growing up was something near and dear to me. Was just how I learned things and exposed myself to some stuff new and whatnot. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
and met up with Kaz, came across Kaz right not long after I joined FFC. For anyone who's been around for a long, long time in the Destiny community, that's Focus Fire Chat. Uh, Met Kaz through there and been following him ever since. So yeah.
Yeah, much appreciated. Um, yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking about reading. We're going to be talking about kind of our introductions to reading, stuff like that. I'm sure that on later streams, um, we're currently, I'm thinking we'll be running this maybe once a month. It's not our regularly scheduled content. And frankly, some of us have lives and we need time between reading now and reading later. Um, but I think part of the focus of the stream is going to be talking about what we're reading and why and what we like or what we don't like. But I think there's a lot that can be said in a kind of meta way around reading. So, um, how do you like to read? What do you like to read? What do you think of, I don't know, Kobo versus Kindle, the age-old debate, stuff like this. So I think there's a lot of like with any hobby, there's a lot of like side discussions as well, and I think they would be kind of interesting. You never know, like sometimes you'll be talking with someone and you're like, yeah, I do this, that's normal, right? And they go, oh no, I don't do that at all. It's not normal. um Random anecdote, the other day I was talking with someone like, she's like another student in a class of mine, and I was like, "Oh, do you like science fiction?" And the fastest no I've ever heard. It wasn't even rude. It wasn't even like, "Oh, that's disgusting." I was just like, "Oh, do you like science fiction?" She's like, "No." and I was like, wow, I have not run into someone who has that, like, just bounced that genre right off of
Yeah.
her. It's fine, she's into other things, but it was, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, also, chat, don't let Penz's humility fool you. We started we started a channel in our Discord. I'll put the link in the channel now. Where we talk about reading. And probably one of the most high level fascinating things about you Pens is that you have what, like 800 books or something?
967.
Okay.
Yes, yes, over 950, 950 books.
So,
Yes.
so
So
I'm sure the short answer to how that happened is like just I don't want to say poor impulse control, but just like a
yes,
passion for it. Yeah. But
yeah.
but I mean, did you inherit a lot or have you just been collecting for a long time?
Um, Full disclosure, I am 50. I'm 54 years old. So uh, I've been collecting books since high school. Um, Back when and this is a discussion we actually had in the Discord channel one point in time when mass market paperbacks were the thing. Um, Now, again, growing up, both my parents, worked. My dad actually was struggling with a new business, so any money that I had, I would look for ways to entertain myself. Uh, you know, growing up in the '80s, I was one of those kids who you came home, you know, pretty much you did your homework and then either sat down in front of the TV or whatever. And I kind of got bored with TV, three channels, and just would, I was getting books from the library, and I was just really, really enjoying it. And I would find myself um, on topics, specifically, I was a big World War II fan, history buff. For those old enough, I was very, very well versed with the 950 section of the of my library.
Mm, mhm.
For those of you who know the Dewey Decimal System, um, and so I mean, I read all those, and I would read them over and over and over again, and then I finally realized, hey, I can get books, you know, at my grocery store, or Walden Books, or any place like that. Um, that were on the topics that I liked. So I just started buying them. There were three $3 at that time, whatever. And when I finished them, I just couldn't bring myself to get rid of them. Um, I and as I got older and I started to expand the topics that I read, especially sci-fi and fantasy. Um, I found Lord of the Rings when I was like 14 and immediately fell in love with the fantasy genre. Sci-fi was kind of the same deal. And so I just if I'm going to spend money on something, I want it to be something that I'm going to keep. So that's kind of a long answer to your question. So yes, I've just been collecting a long time.
No, I mean, that's
And
great.
and yes, I do have poor impulse control, which will be exhibited probably starting next week. I live in Pittsburgh. They're having a book crawl starting next week. Much for those of you who knit, you know what a yarn crawl is. You go around to different stores and you pick up yarn. They have about 30 different booksellers here in the area who are all
Mm.
part of this. They offer like different things and contests and whatnot. So my backlog shall probably grow significantly over the next 2 weeks.
That's funny. No, I mean, that's great. I think it's really good kind of color and context for it. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, any hobby, a hobby like this especially can take you a lot of places. The so many different genres and so many different types and things. And you mentioned a couple of points there
Yeah.
that we'll dive into. I mean, I've been really enjoying this is gonna sound weird, but I haven't been to the library in a long time, and I've started going back. For context for you, chat, so I am from Canada, but I live in France, and I'm working on my French, but it's still not, nearly as comfortable as my first language. And the thing with France is that it is very French. It is very like um most Europeans can speak two languages. They can speak their native language and they can speak English. And I would say that the percentage of people in France who could do that is probably less than Germany or some other countries. So for a while, I was not really going to the library because I remember going a few years ago, and there's literally, and we have a huge mediatek here. We have a building size of a city block, 5, 6 floors up. That's all books and movies and music and all kinds of stuff. And literally a few years ago, there were like two books in English. One of them was like a dictionary, and one of them was like a guidebook to some tour, like I don't know, like going hiking in Western Canada or something, which is great, but very limited. And recently they've done quite a lot of work, and now they have I mean, it's only like two shelves, but I'll take it. So that's been great. Yeah, I mean, with regarding reading, kind of same. My family was into it. We would sometimes spend like a Sunday afternoon, all of us just kind of on different pieces of furniture reading. Um, there was there was an ice. Speaking of like Lord of the Rings, probably got into it around the same time. There was an ice storm uh, in my province in Canada in 1998, and literally my family was snowed in. We just like uh, we heard it was coming. We got a bunch of groceries. We just kind of battened down the hatches, and we lived like at home for a week. We had a fireplace going and food and everything. And that's when I read The Hobbit. My mom has a beautiful hardcover copy of The Hobbit with like illustrations and stuff. And yeah, so I'm sitting there, forget what age, around 10 or something, and reading that. Um,
which was
it
not an easy read. But that's not, The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings is not an easy read for someone
no,
who for that age, and even when I read it as an early teen,
my
that's
first
not an easy read.
my first full novel that I know I read, because like the younger memories get all jumbled around. But I must have been like 3 or 4, and I read the novelization of Back to the Future 2 for some reason. And apparently, the only term I had trouble with was flux capacitor, which is an important one, but I just couldn't say it. Um, yeah, so I've been reading a long time, but I also took a big break. Uh, University will do that to you, right? And this is something I think might come up on a few more of our streams, is like, how do I get into reading? How do I make time for it? How do I have the attention span for it? Because yeah, like I read voraciously, and then after high school I get to university and I just had no time for it, no interest. um and I kind of fell out of it for a while. Did that happen to you, Pens, as well, when you went away to school, or were you like strongly able to kind of do both?
Um, when I got out of high school, I joined the U.S. Army,
Mm,
so I was actually still reading quite a bit there. Usually, like the local post library kind of a deal, and swap books back and forth between the guys,
hmm.
uh,
Is there a lot of
doing
like?
different things.
Am I right to assume that besides times of like intense activity, there's also a lot of hurry up and wait?
Yep.
Yeah. So
I
I
mean,
could.
you're um, you're out on radio watch, you're on guard duty, or something like that, and you ain't got anything you got to do. So it's like, okay, well, let's see. I can sleep. I can't, either sleep. You can do push-ups, which yeah, okay, or you find something to keep your time. And there's no TV. If you were lucky,
Mm,
maybe you had a Walkman, so you had books. And again, you'd probably grab like the mass market paperback you buy out of the PX for whatever. and you grab one or two of them because they were small. They could fit inside your cargo pocket or shove in your backpack, your ruck, or whatever. And
Mm,
you would just kind of read. Now, kind of the same deal. Once I got out and I started going back to college, especially the English courses there, because I mean, there was a lot of reading I had to do in high school, but and there was some discussion on that, but nowhere near what you have in English classes in college or in university.
mm,
Um, and that kind of intense discussion on novels and meaning and whatnot, especially for someone who just enjoyed reading for reading.
mm.
I did at that point in time. I was just kind of it was my enjoyment. It was allowed me to you know I could sit there and read Lord of the Rings, Dragonlance, Heinlein, whatever, and for the while I was reading it, I could kind of just envision myself in that universe for that. Um, when you get for me, like having that kind of intensity and being having to be able to focus on, what does this mean? You're writing essays and whatnot on it. That kind of intensity kind of it sucked a little of the joy out of reading for me, simply
Mm.
because you're no longer picking up a book at like 8 o'clock at night and all of a sudden getting sucked in, and all of a sudden you realize it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're done. It's more along the lines of you're sitting there at 2 a.m. trying to figure out, okay, what the hell is this author trying to convey with this passage? Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, and this is kind of an interesting point that yeah, studying something or over intensely studying something can rob you of it. Um and I think, I mean, kind of stuck with that if you're in like a course or a program that's completely dedicated and focused to it. On the other hand, having some kind of an opportunity to encourage like a critical mind or a critical perspective, because frankly,
right,
I mean, I don't, for myself, I don't do that a lot actually. Like it's not that I force myself to, but there's a lot of times where I finish reading something and I go, okay, so I really enjoyed that, and like here's a bunch of reasons why. Anything I didn't like, and I sometimes will do almost like my own little personal kind of book report in my own head, um, which is just for me. I don't need to do that, and I mean, if you just read something and you're done, and you don't, that's fine. But yeah, I can see that academia can be, especially when it's trying to force that. When it's trying to force analysis or meaning, and you're like, this is just a story. Like, there's
yeah,
no, there's no, you know, you always run into that too, where it's like, why are the curtains red? And you're like, because the author liked the color, or it was a striking color. It's not supposed to represent like oppression or meaning or whatever it is. Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, there are. I mean, it's one thing I will say is there are books that I remember reading in high school and in college that I I because you're so focused on, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? You don't eh, in some way some people really enjoy that. I mean, I don't want to say that I'm not challenged. I don't like critical thinking on reading. I do. Um, but there are times that when it's kind of mandated, I get less out of it. Um, Perfect example for me is The Great Gatsby. I remember reading that in high school. Not really a big fan. I was not a fan of it at the time. It was a difficult read for me, and The Great Gatsby is not that difficult to read, really.
Mm.
But I remember picking it up um, afterwards, and at one point in time, I said, let me. It was something I just picked up and I started reading, and it was like as I actually enjoyed it more when I could sit there and just like, oh, okay, here's the story. Yeah, I get like there's the underlying themes of greed uh, and things of that nature that and kind of the inequities that Fitzgerald was putting in that. But
Yeah.
I
Uh,
enjoyed it more when I whenever I could just sit down and read it rather than, oh, well, you have to have chapters 1 through 6 done by next class.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's on my list because I haven't read it in a while myself, and I want to just go
I have three
back.
copies. I'll send you one.
I want to I want to read it purely because for myself, I want to not only reread it because I'm in a different time and place in my life, but also how do I put this nicely? There's a lot of greed in the world right now, and I think like
Yes.
reading a story that explores that, um there's hopefully there's some comeuppance and such, might be interesting. Um so yeah, chat, if you're out there, feel free to let us know how you're doing. Let us know if you're into reading or not. Fully fine for you to come in here and respectfully let us know that you're just not really a big fan of it. Um, yeah, trying to think. I think like the kind of avalanche of reading that because I had been doing it off and on here and there, book here, whatever. But I think it was really just a couple of years ago when I restarted more fervently. I had some dental surgery done, and my wife got me some books, and I was just like, great hobby to do while you're just recovering. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious, actually. Do you keep a list of what you've read?
Um, well, technically, yes. As as mentioned, yes, I have a ridiculous number of books that I've kept. Um, and kind of, well, just to follow up with that, once I got out of high school, out of college, and I'd started in my career and started working with that, I work in the technical field, so I do have a lot of technical reading that needs done. That also will sometimes kill or mute your enjoyment of reading.
Mhm.
Um, the one thing that I consistently was reading were Halo novels because, yeah, just it's sci-fi. I enjoy sci-fi, and I enjoy the Halo universe. Um, but um, I few years a few years back, kind of the same thing. I had a change where I just kind of wasn't my gaming desire had kind of dropped, and I kind of fell back into reading. And I decided, um, I knew I had a ton of books down in storage, and I had a ton of books here. And I'm like, you know what? I started realizing, hey, Anna, I started realizing it's like I started thinking, oh, wait a minute, do I have this book? Do I have this book? So I started figuring out, okay, I need to find a way to document this. And, you know, not just, I found an app that allows you to scan the ISBN of a book, and it actually you can categorize it, put it in a list, and all that other stuff. And I did that, and that's how I found out that I had 967 books.
Amazing. Yeah, let
I,
me
w- I won't mention it. I don't want to. Obviously, I don't want to. If anyone's interested as to what I use, just PensHalo on Twitch. Just message me, and I'll be glad to tell you which one it is. So
uh Anna in the chat. Hi, Anna. Anna says, different perspective while reading it. A book that you read at 16 years old can be perceived as totally different as one you read at 40. At 40, we've got a lot more life experience and see things differently. Um, Anna says, I've no idea how many books I read in my life, lol. Yeah, I might have to message you as well on that. I think you did tell me the name of that app a while ago, and either I didn't pursue it or I did, but there was some reason why I didn't keep going. But we'll chat and
uh,
sync up on that.
yeah.
For myself, I started keeping a list last year of books that I read, and it was it was like me applying kind of the minimal critical perspective on the hobby. And what I mean by that is I you watch or you read like stories and characters will quote things. And I was sitting there thinking like I don't quote anything that I read. I love lots of things and I hear some amazing descriptions or some amazing quotes and I just there and I'm thinking, "Oh, am I losing that? Like am I just kind of consuming it like popcorn and then I don't remember?" So I started keeping a list of things that I was reading, um, mostly as kind of a like a form of remembering it. Also, kind of a bit of a gratitude toward like the hobby and the stories themselves. And sounds weird, but also to myself for giving myself the time to do that. I've thought about doing something similar in like other media that I watch or consume.
Mhm.
I haven't quite committed to doing that yet, but yeah, I just started keeping a list, and I don't know. I like as much as we're doing like a book stream here.
Yeah.
I'm not really on like book talk. I'm not on all that other stuff, so I'm just kind of learning. But yeah, I started keeping a list, and then I was trying to think like what's important here. And this is a tangent I'm going on, but I think with any hobby, and this one I feel in particular, there is a push and a pull between the hobbification, like the hobby and enjoyment of it, versus the work or the effort side of it. And this manifests in a couple of ways. Like I keep a list of what I read, mostly just so I can remember what I've read. But then there's like, oh, should I write down how many pages this book was? Should I write how many words this book was? Should I put the start and the end date and then I can calculate like how long I read, like how long it took me to read it? You know, it's weird, but there are pressures there that no one is really
Yeah.
putting on me, but I just kind of feel them. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if
No,
if you feel that yourself, Pens.
um, I think I don't know if I necessarily feel like that specific thing. Probably the closest I probably feel to that is if I'm reading a Halo novel because I have kind of inured myself into like the lore aspects of Halo, the game. Is like, oh, I have to remember this, I have to remember these dates and things like that. Um, but in general, when I read, no, I don't really feel like I have that, other than the simple fact that I want to make sure I remember I have it documented what I read, so I don't like buy it twice. So because
Yeah.
I've been known to do that.
Do you, on the
Um,
topic of Halo, I
yes.
don't know if there's an acronym for this, but I feel like there has to be one, or we need to make one.
Mm.
I believe, I'm going to say something, you tell me if it's false. You probably feel that as someone who both personally feels that they are like an expert in Halo and also outwardly are seen by some as an expert in Halo, do you feel a pressure that you need to read the latest Halo thing or the obscure thing or remember all the things? Do you feel any kind of pressure to maintain some place as like a lore enthusiast or expert on Halo? So it's like not a fear of missing out, but it's like a fear of, not even a fear, but like a pressure of needing to be in that position.
Yeah. I do at times. That is all self-imposed. It
Hmm.
is all self-imposed. I mean, a perfect example is um, Halo Studios released a new anthology, which is a print version of a bunch of short stories that were actually released on Halo Waypoint, which is the Halo website. That's sitting on my desk. And it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I was in the middle of another novel or another book, not a novel, that whatever I'm reading, I want to finish before I pick up something new, and it's kind of still sitting there, and I'm kind of like, I got to get this read because I just I have that pressure to do that, and
Mhm.
I mean that's all self-imposed.
Oh yeah,
Because I mean you probably know this from on Destiny, because when you were doing Destinies, like you were like, whenever the new lore thing comes out, whether it be in game, a book, what a comic, whatever, you're always like, okay, I got to read this because I got to know it for just in case somebody brings it up.
yeah,
And you know, I've
yeah.
I've taken that to some weird extremes where I actually have a running list as to the number of words written in Halo novels. It's over 3 million. All calculated by number of pages, how long, like stuff you get off of the audiobooks, like how many words.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean,
Gonna make a flood joke there. It's too,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, yeah, same with Destiny. So for anybody here who is a bit newer, I played quite a lot of Destiny and Destiny 2, and my one of my core areas that I enjoyed and I kind of became a little bit known for was knowing the lore. And yeah, definitely felt that pressure. Something new would come out, and you're torn because you want to experience it on your own, and
hmm
on your own time. But yeah, then other people are like, they're not doing it to you on purpose, but they're mentioning of it, or it being mentioned somewhere else. And I wanted to continue being someone who, if wasn't an expert, at least was a good guide to be like, oh, this is where you want to go, or this, whatever. Um, yeah, and then there's parts of the game that I didn't interact with that much, like raids and things. So yeah, there was pressure, and I found a way to kind of hit the middle ground of it. But yeah, there's definitely that kind of pressure.
yeah,
Interrupting for a second, Anna says,
yeah,
I'm starting Sanderson's Mistborn. Nice. Started reading a little bit every
yeah.
night. Follow a question for you, Anna. What got you into Mistborn? And semi-related, was it because there's a movie or a show coming? Um, for those who don't know, the Brandon Sanderson is this modern epic fantasy novelist. He's got like dozens of novels, and he just signed a couple of deals with like Apple TV and Netflix and stuff to make live action versions of his series. So I might
I hadn't heard
actually.
that.
Oh yeah, yeah. He
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, yeah. He shopped around, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or more, and got an Apple TV bought the rights to do, I don't know if it's all of the Cosmere, which is like Mistborn, Stormlight, yeah, so on. And I think weirdly enough, Netflix signed on a deal to do his Skyward series, which I've never read, but it's a 4 or 5 book, sort of young adult sci-fi kind of series. Um,
That seems to be that would make sense for Netflix to want to do that kind of as like an intro kind of a thing.
mm,
Like the young adult, it keeps things kind of simple, and
yeah,
not that there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to make it sound, but it makes it because it's simpler. It allows it to transition to another media, to video, probably easier, and
yeah,
allow it to maybe stay truer to the spirit of the book or what
yeah,
happens in the book.
exactly. The story structures are generally more contained than
hmm
than something like the other stuff that I mentioned. So yeah, good luck to Apple TV because it's like, I mean, I don't remember if this fact is like if this next statement is true or almost true, but a friend told me that like the amount of words in the Stormlight archive are more than Lord of the Rings, or they will be with the next book or something like that. I mean, it's 5 books versus 3,
Yeah.
But yeah. And it says, I love Tolkien's lore and always wanted to start reading, but never had time. Decided to make time for it. Nice. Well, that's great. I hope you enjoy it. I was just saying a few minutes ago that what kind of kicked off my resurgence back into reading was a few years ago. I had dental surgery, and while I was recovering, my wife got me the first trilogy of Mistborn. Um, so I would love to go back and read them again, probably prior to the new show. And it says, "I'm a historian, and the past of a universe being Tolkien, Destiny, or others always got me." Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
interesting point. Yeah. Um,
One thing to Anna's previous mention about reading a book at 16 versus 40. Um, I never had to read this in high school, but Jack Kerouac's On the Road, um, which is a which is set in the late 50s. It's all about a young man just trying to find his way, making his way to adulthood and adult responsibilities. Um, he's a bit of a slacker, honestly, and my opinion of that novel at 50 is a lot different than what would have been if I would have been reading it in my teens. Uh,
mm,
so it's that is yeah, that is one of the more interesting things about that. You come away with something different with life experience.
yeah, I can imagine that a lot of younger people would have read it with a weird kind of like wanderlust or something that
Oh, I know
that
I would have.
yeah, but that they might not even understood until they got older. Um,
It would have
just
been
to,
a bit. I'm
yeah.
sorry. It's like a bit of a romantic, the romance of being on the road, and
Mm-hmm.
and ignoring kind of the difficulty parts where the difficult parts, which he doesn't shy away from. But it's kind of like the focus gets a little. I think the focus would be different as a younger reader on that versus an older reader.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read it myself, but like any kind of book like that, and then when they do try to mention some of the responsibilities or the things you've left behind, you're like, well, I'm a teenager. I've left nothing behind, so this
Hmm.
part doesn't affect me. Um,
Right.
just a warning to the chat. Once a night when I stream, for some reason, randomly, the stream will go dark. Uh, and if that happens, wait 30 seconds, refresh, and come back in. Um, I think it's a RAM thing. I don't know what it is. It's almost become a ritual here in the stream. I just wanted to kind of get ahead of it if I could. Um, yeah.
Part of me just on a one technical note, I've actually noticed that with Windows 11 and my browser that at some like there'll be like like I'll be watching a video, reading something, whatever, and all of a sudden the screen just kind of the PC doesn't freeze, but the
Mm,
browser window freezes, and it's kind
weird.
of like wait 45 seconds and all of a sudden it'll return back.
Yeah, weird. Maybe that's
Hmm.
related. I don't know.
It might be.
I had this weird bug the other day where Discord was like, you are not allowed to to full screen anything. If you do, I will freeze your computer. And I was like, how? How does that happen? How does it freeze the whole thing? But Anna says, I'm a big fan of Agatha Christie, Golden Age crime detectives of the 30s, 40s, read mostly between 18 and 15 years. Recently joined a Christie's book club at college, and at 50 years old, the reading is so much more rich. Oh, that's great. Well, that actually leads to something kind of fun that I have here beside me. So I was gonna bring a bunch of books beside me that I've read recently, but then I remembered that I'm soon to be moving to a new place. So I went to grab some of the books. I'm like, oh right, I already packed them, or I got rid of them, or whatever. But one of them, I just finished reading this the other day. I read big glare. There we go. Let's The light is so shiny. It's Murder the Orient Express, but it's in
Yeah.
French. Um, Uh, my wife found me, I don't know, like three or four Agatha Christie novels in French. And this one is, I mean, this it's only like 220 pages long or something.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was great. I feel like I have read the English version, like long time ago, but I honestly don't remember, especially because that book has, I mean, it's been made into a couple of films by now, and it really seemed, I haven't read a lot of that genre, but it seems to have really influenced the genre. Um, like, I mean, I've seen it's influenced other things as well. I've seen Doctor Who episodes that were just direct like homages to it. Um, yeah, this is
I
something.
mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, I mean, yeah, Agatha, I'd actually never read anything from Agatha Christie, and I ended up picking up Murder in Mesopotamia and really
Mm.
enjoyed it. I mean, good. It kind of followed the basic who done it kind of a deal. Uh, it was really good. Another one that kind of fits in that genre, at least for me, was the Maltese Falcon. I
Mm.
will totally admit, I saw the movie first, fell in love with it. I actually have a replica of the Maltese Falcon upstairs.
Yeah,
Cause yes,
I mean
I mean, and
that's another classic, right? Like
oh yeah,
it's literally anytime you watch anything that is referencing noir or detective stuff, they will mention that. Like, you know, I'll be watching a like a television show where someone will use a name and they're like, "Oh, why did he use that name?" And they're like, "It's from the Maltese Falcon." Like there's,
mhm.
you know, it's that kind of thing.
It's that 50. It's like that late 40s and 50s noir kind of
Mhm.
feel to the detective novel.
Yeah.
Ray Bradbury? No, not Ray Bradbury.
I don't know who wrote that actually.
No, no, no. Well, that's Dashiell Hammett. He wrote
Okay.
um that. I'm think the not one other one I'm thinking of is The Big Sleep.
Mm.
That's that was from a contemporary of his. Sorry.
No, no. While you're looking that up, Anna says the book club is a project at college to make students read other books beyond academic ones. It's nice to a younger generation discovering Christie's work. Yeah, that's great. We were talking about that earlier. Actually, I kind of fell out of reading because university just really didn't give me a lot of time to consider doing that. Um, so I think yeah, that's great. I mean, that's a pretty like chill kind of social event as well. Um, so something we'll likely talk about on a later stream is like how to get into reading books of a different language than your native one, right? Like I'm from Canada, but I live in France. I've been working on my French. And I finally am at a place in my level of French that I can read things in French. It's not 100% easy, um, but I've come a long way in the last couple of years. And I gotta say, Google Translate, wonderful app. Like, got a camera feature on it, and literally I will just like read like I end up reading stuff like this like almost three times because I read it myself and then I get to the end and I'm like, there's some stuff I don't understand. There's some words I don't know. And you can just hover over it with your phone, get the translation, and go, ah, that's what that obscure verb means. And then dive back into it. But yeah, Christie is a master. I mean, it's really funny when you read something really late that was influential across a genre because if you
Mhm.
don't go into if, I used to be bad where I would start reading a book and then I'd go, wait, when was this written? And that's very funny to do with like sci-fi, for example, because
Yeah.
like you're like, is this person a genius or like are they a prophet or did the cell phone exist when they wrote this book? I don't know. Um, but it's funny when you read something like that later because if you go into Agatha Christie with the mind of I'm just going to read this book, there's probably going to be a part of you that's like, oh, of course that happened.
Right.
So cliche, and you're like, written in 1934. It's cliche because she invented it. You know, um, I found
And they
yeah, I found this to be uh, very clear, very well paced, very charming, um, with like prose that's kind of ahead of its time because I've read other stuff from the same period and it sounds old. It sounds hard to get into, and this is not. And I think yeah, I think the mystery still holds up. And yeah, I mean, like one of it's one of her best, but I'm sure that it would even work as a beginner Christie novel because it keeps you moving through it quite well.
Yeah. Her pacing is that's one thing that I found enjoyable and actually made Murder in Mesopotamia an easy read was it's well paced, it's well written, and you just kind of y- she does the job of being able to draw you in, holding your attention.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there's some novels that get and I'm thinking of specifically Robert Jordan in the Wheel of Time series. I enjoyed that, but there are times that was a difficult read where you would sit there and you're reading through it and just you've especially when you're splitting up going up like all different like you're following different the number of characters they have and all this other stuff. Sometimes it was kind of a slow read and you had to slow down so you weren't I don't want to say it didn't draw you in, but it was just like it was a bit of an effort to read through it. There were sections that could be a little tough.
Yeah,
But
I've heard that there were books or sections that were felt really drawn out, and it's such a balance because you can read something that's written like to be slow, and it still draws you in. You know, it's a
right.
slow burn. People called like Mad Men, the television show, they called that a slow burn. And it's like if it's engaging you, it's really drawing you in. But if it's not done like that, you're like, oh my god, come on, you know. And it's kind of it can be subject. I mean, it's all subjective, but it can be very subjective. It can also whether the author is intending to do that is another thing. Like I have not read most of the Wheel of Time, but I get the impression that the author was not intending to slow things down to draw you in. I get the from what I hear from other people talking about the series, I get the feeling that it was just slow. It's not it's not Tolkien telling you everything about a leaf or a forest so that you really feel
Right.
the weight of the world. It's Jordan just stretching a moment out further maybe than it needs to, and that's just a third hand comment from someone who hasn't like read the later books.
Excuse me. Well, I mean, specifically for the Wheel of Time, what I found was um, he he actually does a really good job of world building because it's an interesting world, um,
Mm.
and I mean that's another topic for another day for world building in books. But um, my issue became that one the cadence between the novels was slow and then so what would end up happening is you get your next novel and then they would have like there'd be sections that were almost direct callbacks to the previous novels to remind you of what actually happened, and it's just like okay, yeah, it's like I understand it but you could have like summarized this a little bit more instead of
Mm.
having me read like 5 pages that are essentially the same thing that happened 2 books ago. I don't need that.
So
But
I stopped after the first Wheel of Time book for a very particular reason. And I may have talked about this on stream before, and I don't know if other people share this. Um, I did not like the use of dramatic irony, how it was used in those books. Specifically, what I mean, I agree. Excellent world building, interesting
yes,
characters, so many diverse aspects of the world. Um, like a mysterious but still clear and present threat, call to adventure, etc.
yeah,
But what happened in that book, in the first book, so many times, is characters would split up on purpose or due to circumstance. Stuff would happen, and then when they reunited, wouldn't tell each other what happened.
right.
Now, late since this complaint and since reading the book, I've like watched the first season of the show and I've thought about it a little bit. And if the reason for that happening was mostly because characters were scared, because all the characters are getting like shunted off. I'm gonna bastardize the book, but like they're all getting
Yeah.
brought to Wizard Town so they can be checked out to see if they're the chosen one or not, and they're all worried that they are the chosen one. So they're all like hiding stuff about themselves so that they don't so that they
Yeah.
get seen as normal and they can go home. But like some of those people know each other and they're friends and they still don't tell each other stuff. And it drove me nuts. Like a character literally gets lost. Spoiler alert here. A character gets lost, bumps like into a forest, finds a random old like man at a campfire who's talking to a
Oh,
wolf.
geez.
The wolf is talking to him. The kid discovers he can understand the wolf, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you're a warg. You can talk
Whoa.
to wolves or whatever." And the kid's like, "No, that's crazy. You're crazy." He's like,
Yeah.
"Sure, whatever." And then the kid leaves, and he rejoins the group. And they're like, "Anything happened while you were gone?" No.
Nope.
And I,
Yeah.
I
No.
I got to the end of the first book, and I asked my friend, I'm like, "Does this keep happening?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm done." Like,
Yeah.
I I can't I can't stand that level was too intense for me.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the way the reason I was like, because I took it was, yeah, they were all terrified. Um, they all, because men being that kind of special in that world was not good. At least that's kind of how it was. Yeah, more spoilers. Sorry. Um,
I mean, it's like
through
the
the time,
first page of the book, I think, tells you that. Like, it's like,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, men being that type of special, and they were there were three friends, boys, who they were all troublemakers, frankly. Um, but all three of them were special in their own way, and it did get trying at a certain point in time. You're just like, all right, guys, come on, talk to each other, please.
Yeah.
And
Like,
the thing, and like they kind of realized, hey, something happened to him, but he doesn't want to admit it. Okay, we won't bring it up. Okay,
yeah. I mean, like, again, okay, they're scared and they don't want things to
yeah,
happen. But yeah, like Anna's pointing out, some of them are best friends growing up together. We know the first thing that we would do is tell each other these things. Yeah, I would at least pull my best friend aside and be like, hey, like, anything weird happened to you? And then at the very least, be like,
well,
anything weird happened to you? And they'd be like, no, what about you? And I'd be like, no. And they're like, you're lying. And I'm like, okay, don't tell the enchantress or whatever.
yeah.
Um, I, and it depends on how it's done. It depends on the reader
Mhm.
because like dramatic irony can make for some like delicious moments in stories where it's like, oh, if they
Right.
had known, if they had talked, then the tragedy could have been prevented, or she does love him, and etc. But
I mean,
yeah,
Romeo and Juliet uses dramatic irony
yeah,
for that aspect of
yeah,
it.
and
You
that
know,
and that emphasis and that brings for. And I mean, maybe there could have been a part of me at a certain time in my life where I'd be like, come on, talk to each other. But like, yeah, it just for me, it wasn't. When I first read it, it wasn't well communicated to me that the fear of being discovered might have been superseding the
yeah,
the advantages of just talking to each other and so and again it's subjective, but no, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, funny to talk about pacing, especially because the last few books were finished by Brandon Sanderson,
Anderson.
right?
Yeah.
And what's kind of funny about that is that in Sanderson's reading and writing, um this is kind of an emotional spoiler, but a lot of his books uh accelerate at the end, and the community has called that the Sanderlanche, like an avalanche. Um,
Well, as and I actually noticed I read Way of Kings. That
mhm.
was my first Sanderson novel, and kind of got the hooks in me on that one. But the other author who I have known does that is Stephen King.
Mm.
Stephen King, when he writes, he will the first like three quarters of a novel, of usually his standalone ones, the first like three quarters or so, it's kind of slow and deliberately he's getting you comfortable with the main characters. He's going into a lot of detail. Sometimes you're like, why is this so detailed? That's because in the last like quarter of the novel, when everything goes to hell, you're like you actually feel more emotional connection with that character.
Mhm.
And I did that. Sanderson, I noticed that with Sanderson too.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of almost just that he wrote the ending of The Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
He did that because unfortunately the author passed away, and
George
then is
passed
this,
away. Yeah.
but for a book series that really slowed itself down at a certain point, and then you bring in the guy who speeds things up, especially for the ending of things. I don't know if that happened pace wise for the ending of Wheel of Time, but if it did, that must have been like just a kind of really exciting like roller coaster ride to wrap everything up toward the end. Um,
I'll admit I only made it through like I think the first six novels of
mhm.
that because that's a
Yeah, it's
is
like
that a
13
10
books or
novel?
something.
Yeah, it's really long. I only made it through like six
Hmm.
because then after that, I mean, I think his health was failing, and the release of the novels became even longer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's
Well,
it's kind of like that kind of it's kind of like you all of a sudden like you and it was also the point probably about the time of my life when I started moving away from reading a little bit more, so it was like
yeah.
I kind of dropped.
That brings up an
But
interesting point, and I'm jumping around topics here, but
yeah,
how do you, and this is for the chat as well, how do you feel about stopping reading something halfway through a book and you're not feeling it, part of the way through the series and you're not feeling it, or the author's done something you really don't like? How does that feel? In terms of like, is do you power through it, or are you like, life is short, I'm done, and you move on?
it's hard to say because I'll admit even though I have so many books, I do tend to be kind of picky at what I pick up. But
Hmm.
um, I would say that if you, for me, if I pick up a book and I've paid for it, I tend to want to try to work through it. Plus there's the whole thing of is it is it just like this section that I don't like,
Hmm.
or is it something? Is it just like okay, the style, the style, and like not knowing how an author writes, it becomes really really difficult. Um, and it take you know it might take you a bit longer to get used to that. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I mean, because if you are reading for enjoyment and you're not getting enjoyment or something shifts in that, and we all have our own personal experiences. There are certain things um, that may affect us. That once it's brought up, it's like, yeah, no, this is just a no for me. I didn't think they'd go that way. Um, that if you feel strongly enough and you're not enjoying it, I don't think there's anything wrong with just putting a book down. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, I mean, there are books that I've picked up and realized, wow, I can't stand this author's writing at all. And,
Mm.
you know, um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. No, I was just curious because, yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, like, if you can, and you know, there's a tendency to want to judge a piece in its entirety, because then
yes.
you can determine, like you said, if it's just that one section, or what it is. Um, Thankfully, so far there haven't really been books that, by the time I crack open the cover, I've not really found books like anything I've read recently where I would get a few pages in and be like, oh, I really don't like this. I'm not,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but yeah, it kind of relates to the other side of things, which is um the pressure to read stuff, to read what you own. And this is something, again, self-imposed, non-necessary pressure. Um, do you feel uh do you feel guilty for having stuff on your shelf that you haven't read?
No, I don't necessarily think I ever feel guilty about having stuff on my shelf that I haven't read.
Mhm.
Well, maybe maybe at one point in time I did, but now I'm kind of like, um, if I have stuff on my shelf that I haven't read yet, it's kind of like, okay, well, I mean, there's a lot. I have a lot going on. I work and my life and family and house to take care of and all that stuff. And so it's like most of my reading time is usually just before bed. So you know, I figure as long as the intention is I will get to it. You finish something up, pick up the next one, kind of a deal.
Mhm.
Or um, like yeah, I mean that Halo novel that I have that I want to read. That's probably, I mean, that, but I have 10 other ones sitting there. And after finishing the last one I read, it's like, yeah, you know what? I've had Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow on my shelf. I want to read that first, kind of a
Mhm.
deal. And so I'm kind of reading that one right now. But yeah,
Nice.
I don't think there's any. Um, you should never be. This is kind of a maybe a real broad. I don't think you should ever feel ashamed if you've got stuff on your shelf that you haven't read,
Mhm.
because you know unless it's an assigned reading, you know, read what you want. Read what your mood is. If you're in the mood for a romance, read romance. If you want some adventure, go for it. If you want to scare
Mhm.
yourself, pick up a horror novel or a suspense novel. Take your pick.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, um, I went from having a couple of books in my possession, especially because I moved, right? Like, so moving from Canada to France, like, I left a lot of the books that I had read behind. So when I got back into reading more earnestly, I went from having like a handful of books that I was right on the horizon of reading. And then over the last year or two, it's been more like, oh well, we went to this place and we went to that place, and someone gifted me a book, and I started having these piles of.
Hmm.
And there was a feeling when that was starting to happen where it was just because it was new and I wasn't used to that. I am the person, I read all my emails. I read all my texts, um all my notifications. So like having a pile of books sitting there felt like, Green Goblin like chuckling at me because I hadn't like done it. Um but that was just because it was new. And yeah, like I think the metaphor my wife uses is funny because I don't drink, but she calls it like your wine cellar, where it's like you have a collection. What do you feel like today? I'm gonna go down and get a rosé, and like you said, I'm gonna read this. I don't feel guilty over that. Um,
Right.
yeah. So that's kind of what I've been doing, and because of like what we said about like reading different things at different times of your life, yeah, like maybe you're not in the mood for this now, but thankfully you've built a collection that you can go and pursue, and you're like, oh, there's that book I got like a long time ago that I didn't feel like reading until today. Um, and it says it's a mix depending on the books or author. When I read Garcia Marquez's The General and his Labyrinth, I had a hard time. Pace of the book is very slow. I power through it, but I stop reading books. Oh, here we got a quote here. It is foolish to think that you have to read all the books you buy, as it is foolish to criticize those who buy more books than they will ever be able to read. It would be like saying that you should use all the cutlery or glasses or screwdrivers or drill bits you bought before buying new ones. Hmm. Umberto Eco. Yeah, I think I do remember seeing that quote at some point. No, I agree. And I mostly just bring it up just to check perspectives. And if there is anybody out there who feels that way to offer that perspective because yeah, I mean it's like anything. You I don't know, you're gonna go well case random example. My wife bought a pair of snowshoes and we haven't used them in the 2 or 3 years that she's owned them. And she's like, I want to use these things. And I'm like, we will, but like we're not
Yeah.
beholden to use them immediately. Like it's
Hmm.
okay. Um yeah. Um
I mean, eh, that's not like in, or this might be someplace I don't know, but while I mean, book talk tends to fall over on Instagram, and it's kind of like it's become fashionable to have a huge, and I've used this term before, your to be read list. You know what I mean? That
mm,
seems to be fashionable. I'm kind of like, yeah, I have books that I haven't read yet, but it's kind of like, okay, it's just weird how that kind of stuff is
you mean like
portrayed.
how yeah, like how someone's like hobby has then turned
Hmm.
into almost a positioned like piece of content or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's that line. It's like it's the difference
Mhm.
between like yeah, it's the difference between like here's a list of things I'm excited to read, let's share, let's compare, whatever, versus something that might be a bit more performative.
Right.
Um
Right.
yeah. Something that I've been doing I think I will turn us back to the actual like, getting started topic, but something that I've been doing a little bit more recently is slowly spiraling out into other genres. Um,
Yeah.
I really, I really dig the fantasy genre, bit of sci-fi as well. Um, I say a bit, both, but I find that sci-fi, some of it I've read has started to try to do a thing where it really like I don't know, tries to posit itself as being smart and clever. And it's like it's science, it's science fiction, but interested in what you do with it, not the position that you
Yeah.
take. Yeah. But I've been trying to do a little bit more recently. Crime novels. I read a modern, found a random book in the book hutch, and I would call it like a modern, almost like a modern noir. It's not quite noir. It's it's called the Jasmine Trade. Kind of can't even read that with my lighting here, but it's called the Jasmine Trade by Denise Hamilton. And there's a way of interpreting this book as kind of like not schlock, but just kind of like I mean, the main character is a journalist named Eve Diamond. She's investigating stories and things that happen in Los Angeles. Um,
Right.
but it does kind of give the same feeling of a noir. Like she's got an empty fridge and she's got an empty love life and like, not usually the kind of book that I would read, but I think there's nothing wrong with staying completely. And I think this is an interesting thing about reading. I think there's nothing really wrong with staying in your interested lane. If you want to read every romance novel in the world or every history buff novel, like I don't think there's any problem with that. It's a hobby of enjoyment. But I'm interested in seeing what my perception of my favorite genre will be once I take a few steps out of it and come back into it.
Yeah. I mean, probably after all through high school, I read fantasy, Tolkien, Dragonlance, anything that would kind of fall into the fantasy realm. That's what I enjoyed reading, other than World War II history. Um, Eventually, I got but um, then I found Tom Clancy, which is anyone who's old enough knows the term techno thriller. It kind of started with him. It became big. I mean, there are others who used to do stuff like that. Clive Cussler, I think. But that was kind of that. So, The Hunt for Red October, Red Storm Rising, Patriot games. Those. those books that were a good, they were a good story. It kind of had a guy who was a little bit of a Jack, you know, he's a bit of an everyman, a little bit. I mean, yeah, he works for the CIA, but it kind of putting him into like all kinds of extraordinary situations, and there was a lot of technical stuff in there too. Um, you know, specific stuff about the military and things like that. Um, it was also at the same time that I kind of picked up reading Stephen King, which that's kind of a big shift there. Now it's I I I I have sci-fi, I have fantasy, I have like I just finished a book called Inside of a Dog that talks about how the a you know how dog what the perception of it is from a dog, and I actually learned the term umwelt, so which is
Yeah,
an interesting term.
they're kind of like environmental
Yeah, yeah,
sensory.
how they perceive their environment. So there's a lot. I mean, there's a series of detective novels that are set in Pittsburgh that I kind of like too. Um, so I'm trying to like expand it some, but there's always you know the sci-fi and fantasy stuff, which I always tend to fall back on because that's kind of my comfort zone.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And it says in the chat, I'm trying to read more African, Asian, and Latin American writers. Sometimes we get caught and read too much Western writers. Um, yeah, agreed. Definitely would love if you have any recommendations on that front, Anna. Would love to hear them. I think you're in our Discord as well. I'll put the link in the chat just in case. We have a channel there called Book Nook that if you want to drop any recommendations, they'll live longer in the Discord than they will here on stream. So I would love to see that. Um, yeah. All right. Let's try. Let's do a bit of a lightning round of random
sure.
questions. I don't have any prepared, but I have a few in my brain. So,
Okay.
uh, Pens,
Mhm.
can you read in a moving vehicle? Train, plane, automobile, boat.
In short bursts.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, pl- I have an easier time in a plane than I do in a car. I
Mm,
do
yeah.
tend to get a little bit more motion sick in a car. In a plane, on trains, anything like that, yeah, I can read there.
Nice. Yeah.
So
I'm lucky that I can read so far. I can read pretty much anywhere. Buses, trains, cars, whatever. But yeah, a lot of people can't. Uh, oh,
mhm.
my computer just did something. Hold on.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. This happened to me the other day. This is a new thing that has happened to me, chat. Don't freak out. What we're gonna do is we're gonna stop and start the stream again. I don't know why this is a new bug that has happened where my PC will freeze and then it will come back and the OBS window will be cut in half. It's shrunk. Um, it did this to me when I was playing God of War the other day. So I'm gonna have
Oh
to.
boy.
We're gonna stop the stream here for a minute, and we're gonna restart it again. This will make no difference to you, Pens, here on the call with me, but we'll see you all in a minute. When I was doing God of War, we're back up live now, so it'll start to kick in. Um, when I was playing God of War, it literally like what it did is it just took the stream and just like it just compressed it all in half,
Oh boy.
uh, which is weird. I don't whatever. Okay, reading in motion, got it. Trying to. I had a few others. You mentioned like a kind of a nightlight sort of thing. So do you in Discord? So when you're reading,
Mhm.
do you have like a book lamp? Is it one that like attaches to like your book or your nightstand, or how does that work?
I've tried the ones that touch the book. They're not bad, but because I tend to read, those work best on a hardback, and
Mm,
I tend to read a lot more softback books. So you know, I've actually accidentally torn the back parts, the back covers of books for that.
mm,
I did try one of the. I did end up buying one of those ones you see on Amazon. It's like the pane thing that you it's supposed to come. It's supposed to light up through an LED, and it's supposed to make every like the page brighter.
Mhm.
Um, that really wasn't as good as I hoped. Mainly because it's good for a certain size of book. If you
Mm.
have a larger book, it doesn't work as well because obviously you're not able to see part of it. The best thing is I have well, it's actually something my wife uses when she knits. It's one of the it's kind of the loop that goes around your neck,
Mhm.
uh, and that's probably the best one that I've had
Hmm,
uh, for that.
nice.
So
Have you read much on like e-readers?
yes, um, usually when I travel, I use the Kindle app, um, and I will because it's just the convenience is just it's too good to have it.
Mhm.
And also because of um, like if I'm going somewhere for a week, like okay, my wife and I visited Ireland, and there was a lot of travel. We were on trains a lot, so the flight over, trains, whatnot. Yeah, I'm instead of dragging multiple books with me, you throw them all on an e-reader, and you go from there. So
Yeah.
yeah, and so
Yeah. No, that's pretty good. Answering some of those myself. I don't really use a light. I just use whatever like lamp is with me. My wife tends to fall asleep later than I do anyway, so if I'm reading at night, it's fine to leave the lamp on.
right.
Um, yeah, I can read in a moving vehicle, and then my brain just oh yeah, e-readers. So I don't have an e-reader, but I have the Kindle app on my phone, which is kind of funny because like you'll be reading a book and it's like a vertical like screen and it's only a
Right.
phone screen. So it'd be like, ah, that 200 page book you're reading, it's 6,000 phone swipes or whatever. Okay, yeah. I read the Count of Monte Cristo on my phone that way, and that was
Oof.
very funny. It was just like so many
Yeah.
pages, but it is really convenient. And like um there was a humble bundle deal uh recently or like a while ago for like I don't know if it was all, but it was a lot of the Murderbot series. And I haven't read them yet, but a friend of mine read through them, really recommended them. And if you're not on Humble Bundle, it comes out every once in a while, and there's often games or books or software, and it's for a decent price, and some money can go to
Yeah.
charity. So yeah, I got like I don't know, like 20 books or something on there. Um, Another little tip is if you are, you can get the Kindle app,
Mhm.
no problem. And you can also, if you have an Amazon account, which you don't pay for, put an email. I don't know if it still works. I think it does, but you can basically email yourself files that are, as long as they're PDF or the EPUB or whatever the
Mhm.
format is, you can email yourself your Kindle account and then start reading that way, which is
Okay,
great.
will Kindles actually read any EPUB, or does it have to be an Amazon one?
I think I think any I
Okay.
so a friend
Oh,
of
so
mine.
it's a built-in EPUB. It's a built-in EPUB reader
I
because
mean,
I'll admit I've had to find I found one for on Windows called I think it's called Aquila
mhm.
as an EPUB reader.
Yeah, I mean, don't quote me on it. I'm not too familiar with it, but basically, I've had EPUBs sent to me, I've had PDFs sent to me, and um, I believe you can go into you can go to your Amazon account and go to somewhere in your account, and there's like it'll tell you, hey, this is the email to send it to. But for me, it was just like my account name at Kindle.com. And if I
Mhm.
email that and I drop the attachment as the file, uh, what normally happens is a few minutes later, it sends me an email going, did you want to do that? And I say yes. And it goes, okay. And then a few minutes later, Kindle goes, hey, there's this thing here. Do you want to read it? And then you can start reading it. Um, so
Yeah. I
I
mean,
That's been pretty good for me for certain books where like a friend owns it and like, wants to get me into a series or something, so he gives me the first book. Um, or if I'm transferring from one kind of e-reader experience to another, that's helpful.
okay, well here's one for you. I mean, well, we talked about um early, well, I guess it was before stream, the question of, are audiobooks considered reading?
Mm.
So, uh,
Yeah,
I mean,
I remember when I first thought of that question, or first heard that question years ago. I was a bit pedantic, and I might have said no. But I've completely shifted my perspective on it. I think the answer is yes. Um, there are differences, of course.
mhm,
The one kind of perspective that makes me like pause is when people compare audiobooks to podcasts. I find that an interesting perspective because normally, if I'm saying, well, okay, I've got a book in front of me and I'm reading it, I put it down.
right.
Somebody is narrating the book to me and I'm listening to it. Very similar kind of experience in my mind of like what's happening. But then somebody made the
Mhm,
comparison of like, what about a podcast? It's like, well, yeah, if you're like puttering around in the kitchen, are you paying attention to it? I still probably sit in the camp that audiobooks are reading. Um, but I have a lot more to say on that. How about you, Pence? How do you feel about it?
um, again, I mean, this is probably more on the pedantic side. I mean, is it quote unquote reading? No, it's not. But it is one of the great things about books to me is they will they expose you to something new. They can new language, new words, new thoughts. So to me, to dismiss, you know, an audiobook as, well, it's not really reading. I don't. I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't. Just because you consume a novel because someone is narrating it, to me doesn't preclude it as, okay, well, it doesn't count, kind of a deal. Uh, and in some cases, and forgive me for, I'll keep referencing Halo um, on this one of the latest Halo novels called Edge of Dawn. It's set after the last Halo Infinite, the last game, and they actually had Steve Downes, who voices Master Chief, and Jen Taylor, who voices Cortana and the Joyu, the new AI, um, and they had a narrator, and they had those two narrating their parts. Oh, they also had another third character, and they had his voice actor in game narrating his part, and it it added something. In my view, it added, and it there were definitely emotional parts in that book that they're voicing it in their voices just added to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that's the one thing about audiobooks. If you have a really good narrator, you could like that can um I'm sorry for keep going on, but if you can
No,
get a
no.
really good narrator, they can who can um
Yeah, just
like
enhance the
you know,
experience, right?
yes, yeah, who can give you the same emotion.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I
you know,
mean, a funny one. You mentioned Way of Kings recently. So apparently, I don't know if there are multiple versions of narration of books. I don't really engage with audiobooks a lot. Um,
all right,
but apparently the narrator for Way of Kings, like they switch narrators or something, like after like into the second book.
okay,
And apparently the new narrator who is I think what I've been told is that for those books they use like two narrators for all the like male presenting parts and all the like female presenting parts.
yeah,
And apparently the narrator switched for the male presenting parts in the second book, and some of like there's a culture of people that the new narrator decided to make them all sound like they were from Quebec.
Oh,
Like they
jeez.
all have a kind of weird like French English like accent to them, and it really took him out of the book because he's like, "What am I listening to?" Um, yeah, I think I think the question is, I think the question and the topic has like a room of interesting discussion and perspective around it. But I also think, unfortunately, it has a mountain of rooms that are toxic. And
Yes.
it's interesting to think about like our own experiences with reading. I mean, as an example, and with writing. Bit off topic, but there's been a lot of studies about the differences of how you retain information when you physically write something down versus when you type and write it down.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's been said of similar things of reading with your eyes versus audiobook engagement. The other side of that, of course, is, and this is where you start to get into the toxicity, is the other side of it is just access, right?
Yeah.
This stream is about getting started, and some people don't have the time, they don't have I mean, if your only like free time in your day is the bus going to work or school and you can't read
Right.
in a moving vehicle, then you're not going to read.
Yeah.
So if you're driving somewhere. So like maybe an audiobook is like your only way in. So that's where some people go too far and they start like there's a lot of gatekeeping, I think, in the
Yeah.
reading
Oh, yeah.
community as well. Like I don't engage with the wider community of it, but even I've kind of seen, like you said, the to be read list and or
Yeah.
what they have read or are audiobooks reading, you know. Yeah, it's, again, there's a fascinating part of it, and then there's like a kind of an access part of it that's uh it's especially funny for readers to gatekeep reading, especially in the modern era, where it's like they're
Yeah.
not even printing those, I forget what you called them, but the like smaller paperbacks that are like not being printed
They're
anymore.
the mass market. They were
Yeah,
known as mass market paperbacks.
mass market
So
paperbacks. Yeah.
for anyone who's listening who has no idea what I'm talking about, it used to be that you when you had like novels released, you they would usually come out in hardback, and then they would come in what was known as a paperback, roughly about the same size as, maybe slightly smaller. But then there was something known as the mass market paperback. The mass market paperback was something that was supposed to be smaller, easy enough to put in a pocket or in a handbag, backpack, whatever, something small that you could take with you and read. So you'd actually have three different versions of the same novel written. One was just more portable. The other two would stay at home. Um, with the and Now I can't even remember. I think was it in the New Yorker? I think, or it was the New York Times. One of the
Hmm.
it was an art. I remember posting it in Discord, um, that talked about the mass market paperback is dying as a medium, mainly because e-readers have taken over that
Yeah.
that part. Um,
Yeah, it's like if you're reading, like if you're a serious, like if you're a reader who reads a lot, you're probably engaging with it in like digital space. And if you're
yeah,
not, maybe you're just, I mean, maybe you're just like reading like some big old, giant book or
yeah,
whatever. So,
yeah,
um, yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, you know, there are plenty of times I sit there and I go, I have novels that I have the physical one. And I also have it on my e-reader. Why? Because if I want to read them someplace, I will read them, while I'm traveling. But you know, if someone's only ability is to read it on an e-reader or listen to audiobook, um, yeah, and they also were cheaper and definitely made reading popular. Although, frankly, one of the very, very first mass market paperbacks I remember ever seeing were Harlequin novels.
Mm, mhm.
So, for again, I'm showing my age on this, but when people talk about like romantasy, that was Harlequin novels growing up for me. So,
Mm,
or grow when I was growing up.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's just if you want to read, and or you want to consume a novel, and your only option is that 2 hour bus ride you got every day to and from work, more power to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and reverting closer to the topic at hand. I mean, if you're looking to get into it, I don't think that's actually anybody here. But if you're watching this, and I don't know, maybe I'll put it up on YouTube. I haven't decided yet, but um, yeah, if you're wanting to get into reading, I mean, we're talking a lot about books, but we're going to be on this stream. On this stream, we'll probably do maybe a once a month. Yeah, we'll likely get into other mediums, comics, manga, um, anything. Like it's um it's an interesting, like, reading of any kind is an interesting way to absorb information and stories, and personally prefer fiction. I don't really read a lot of nonfiction, but others, find really enjoy nonfiction. It's a calming exercise, and it can be tough if you have a busy life, if you're stressed, if you haven't been reading. It's like a muscle as well. There's definitely a stamina and a muscle uh regarding it, especially now nowadays, right? Like, and that's what I was saying before, is like anybody who gatekeeps any hobby, but especially this one, it's like you're gatekeeping like a shrinking and shrinking market. Now, maybe I'm
right.
wrong. Maybe if you go out and you look at the stats, like maybe reading as a hobby is like actually doing well, because like there's a lot of stuff that's a lot of stuff has been popularizing reading in the epic fantasy novels and
Mhm.
adaptations and etc. But yeah, it's a silly argument. To bookkeep it in any way. And that's actually why the title of the stream is like reading book club or whatever, because I haven't figured out a good word that means that there's a short way of saying like engaging with, like, the word that someone has
Yeah.
written or said or drawn on a comic book page. Um yeah.
I
And
mean that's kind of an important thing just for anyone who's, if you're starting reading. Um, it To me, reading is all about storytelling. You can find well done storytelling anywhere. You can find them in novels. You can find them in audiobooks. You can find them in comics. You can find them in. I mean, honestly, even though I don't read a lot of manga and or anime, uh, some of the people that I do know tell me, and the ones that I've seen, have some brilliant storytelling in them.
mhm.
And if you're able to find time to just you're reading, Death of Superman. I'm going to use, I'll just grab that one out because that was popular, immensely popular at one point in time. That's a very well written run of Superman, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Just really great storytelling. And if that's where you start, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. No, exactly. Um yeah. Uh One little thing that I'm going to do here as we get toward the end of the stream, I just finished reading a book today, and I have this little thing that my wife got me. Again, I find a balance in my approach to reading between logging the information for my own benefit, but not pushing myself into some kind of like competitive, like whatever aspect of it. Gonna dox my first name here, but I don't care. So she got me this little. It's hard to see with the light. Could I change the mode? Maybe. So far away. It's a bit better, but still not easy. Anyway, it's a little stand. It's a little short thing, and it says books read this year. My name, and it's got these three little pegs on it with these uh, little hanging blocks with numbers on them. And I have read 32 books this year. I just made the transition from 31 to 32. Um, it's a nice little thing. Again, I don't really I'm not doing it for any kind of competition or whatever, but
Right.
I like to celebrate it. I like to um, and regarding a question I asked earlier, sure, there might be a book where I'm kind of excited for it to end because I've kind of felt like I've got what I want out of it. But yeah, I think there's lots of other people out there who are engaged in this hobby. They all have different approaches to it. Feel free if you're in the stream to come back, share in the Discord as well regarding what you're reading. I'm trying to encourage people to talk about that kind of stuff, whether it's like you know comics or huge epic fantasy, or I'm reading this historical like autobiography or the autobiography nonfiction kind of stuff. Um,
Right.
that perspective is really interesting as well. Just getting, uh, I'm jumping around a lot. Something I'm actually excited for. I was
Mhm.
at the library earlier today, and I found the novel Bird Box. Um, which I only know from the film. I've never seen the film, the one with Sandra Bullock in it. It's a horror book.
Okay.
It's and what's funny is when we talk about different mediums, I
Mhm.
hate horror. I don't like watching horror. I hate it.
Yeah.
It makes me mad. Sometimes it's that dramatic irony thing, like don't go down in the basement, but mostly uh Uh, I find a lot of horror speaks to like a hopelessness
Yeah.
that bothers me. But weirdly, I'm looking at it from a reading perspective, and I'm like, huh, I might actually enjoy that. I might enjoy sitting in the simmering nature of the foreboding. Um,
Right.
so I'm gonna try it. We'll see how it goes. I actually wanted to start with Stephen King. I found a copy of Christine, never read it. Uh, gonna try jumping into that. So yeah,
If I may,
yeah,
what I would recommend, because it's short and it's written in a serial style, is Cycle of the Werewolf.
Michael. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, by Stephen King. It's really short. It's a pretty nice read.
Mm,
Um, but and King kind of wrote it in like in the idea of like the whole thing of a weekly serial, if
mm,
you're kind of familiar with that concept. So there were 12. It's like one January through December. Um, if you want to get into King, I would recommend that, honestly.
nice.
Before you start hopping. I mean, not that I didn't. I enjoyed Christine.
Hmm.
I mean, but with King, you can start with that, and you know, then um,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it sounds
just
like with it being shorter and getting used to the style and the genre, that
mhm,
might it's a good idea. I might seek that out
yeah.
as a bridge point. Um, Yeah. So, as we come close to wrapping up the stream, as I said, if you want to share with us what you're reading, what you're liking about it, what you're not liking about it, um, feel free to jump into the Discord. We have a channel there dedicated to it. Um, and as I said, we'll likely continue doing these on probably a once a month basis. We talked a lot, right, this stream mostly about kind of the meta of reading, about the, getting into it and the environment of it. But as a book club, we will be also just talking about things that we have read or that we are reading. I want to, we're not going to do a full academic exercise, but it is kind of neat to be like, oh, I like this, or oh, I found that kind of slow, or
Yeah.
whatever. Always interested in hearing that. So, yeah, want to thank everybody for coming out. If you're here on Twitch, I'm usually having these kinds of conversations while I play video games, so feel free to come back. And if I do decide to put this up on YouTube, which I'll have to think about that because I didn't record it, so I'll have to get it from Twitch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you're over on YouTube, we're live on Twitch usually every day or every couple of days, 4 o'clock Eastern, 9 p.m. UK time. Links will be etc. And yeah, Thank you, everyone. We're going to do our little outro. Pens, thank you so much for joining us and for all of your time and attention. Any last things you want to say before my outro?
No, I mean, um, don't mind. Just like I said, I do stream on Twitch, PensHalo, PensHalo. I'm kind of in the middle of, for anyone who's interested in storytelling, I'm actually running through all of the Halo campaigns. So feel free to stop by. I'm more than glad to talk about Halo at all. I mean, short note as a flashback to FFC, I ran into a friend was on Discord and he was streaming as he was doing some miniature painting and had someone on who talked mentioned one thing about Halo, and I ended up hopping on their stream and talking for about 2 hours about it. So yeah, I can go on and on, but yeah. So um, catch up with me in Kaz's Discord. Hit me up if books, whatever. So
Yeah.
and thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was great. All right, everyone, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. And as always, be safe, be kind. We'll see you all next time. Bye now.